All right, this video is going to be kind of detailing the Rotobec Limb Reaper grapple saw. I'm going to point out a few things, show some things about it. And the first part of this, I'm going to show how to remove the bar and chain on this thing. It's very simple. You don't need any tools to do it at all. You've got a lock button right there that I'm pointing at, and then you got a release button right here, which is a brass button. And what the brass button does is it releases a pressure on the auto tensioning system. So you don't have to tension the bar at all. It automatically does that through hydraulic pressure. And then you got one more thing right here, which is a screw. This slide it to put a screwdriver in, or you can put a socket on it there too. What that does, that's the bleeder screw for your tensioning system, so you don't ever mess with that thing. Don't mess with it. If you break that thing loose, then you're going to have to re-bleed the system back out, which is no big deal to do, but you just leave it alone. The way you undo this thing is the first thing you do is mash and hold this button right there and hold it down. Just grab the chain and pull out on it, and when you pull out on the chain, it's going to make the bar go backwards, and then this right here, you push this in when it gets all the way backwards, and it locks that bar assembly back. So all you do, you just mash this button down, hold it, and see it push back, and then push that pin in and let off of it, and it sets against it. See, the chain is loose now. Then all you do is just pull the chain off the tip and off the sprocket, and there you go. It's 404 pitch chain. I'm running a 30-inch bar on it. The bar that's on it is an Oregon Jet Fit bar. Jet Fit means that it's slotted on the back. You don't have to break none of these bolts loose. All you do to take the bar off now is you just grab it and slide it out. The bar comes right out. See, and when I hit that thing, it released that pin right there. The bar just slides right out. You don't have to have no tools to take it off. To put it back on, same thing. Go on the sprocket first, get it on there, and then get it on the tip. Once you get on the tip, get in the back of the rail, and then all you do is pull out on it, and it releases that lock pin, and let go of it. Set in the rail, and when you bump the button in there, it's going to pressure it up and lock it down to where it needs to be. To sharpen the chain, I hand file them. You just use a same file that you file a 3/8 chainsaw chain with. 7/32 file, 5.5 millimeter. I have a shorter bar over there from one of our processors that I got Kevin to bring me. I just take it off and throw it in the vise, hand file it real quick, throw it back on there. The bars, they're about 95 bucks, I think, for a bar. Chains are like 35 bucks. Very inexpensive. You're going to bend bars every now and then, especially starting out, till you get the hang of it and what to do and what not to do. I'm going to go over some stuff, as far as that goes too in the video, and explain some things like that. But very simple system, the way that it works and functions, and the way you can, take the chain on and off. If you throw the chain off, which you can do if you're cutting little limbs or you're cutting multi-stems or whatever, you're going to have to hold this button in right there and then grab it out here on the end and continue to hold that button in while you shove that bar all the way in. Because if you let out on this button while you're pushing before you get it bottomed out, it can get some back pressure on it, and you won't be able to get it to go all the way back. And then up here, if it won't go all the way back, sometimes there'll be a lot of sawdust and stuff packed up in there in that slot. You might have to knock some of that out to get that. Make sure as you're running this thing, occasionally you check these mounting bolts. You got 4 right here. And there's one up there on the top that you can get to from the top, and one right there on the top over there. So there's 6 right there. And then you got 2 right here and right there at 3/4. Make sure you check those bolts every now and then. The grapples, the way they open and close, and they grip the tree, and it kind of shocks it. Every one that I've ever had on a grapple saw, it can loosen those bolts up because that thing's hanging out there, and it you know, it shocks it a little bit through the grapple, and occasionally you may have one come loose. You don't want one to come loose, so the best thing to do is be proactive on that and make sure you keep up with it. So I'm going to put the head down now, and I'm going to show some stuff on the bar return system and bar speed out on it. I'm going to show that. The bar is returned by air pressure in this little tank. That's about a 2.5 inch diameter tank. Looks like it's about 16, 18 inches long, something like that. And it's just got air pressure in it. The air pressure in this tank is supposed to be at 200 psi. I have had a lot of problems, gotten calls on people who've got these things, and for whatever reason they want to check this, and it's set from the factory, and unless you're having problems with the bar returning, don't even open that, don't even mess with it or anything. Since I've had mine for over a year now running, I've never checked my air pressure. I know it's working correctly. There's no need to do it. Because what happens is there's a little Schrader valve up under here, just like on a car tire. You take this cap off, 200 psi in this little bitty tank right there. If you so much as blip that Schrader valve to check it or anything, and you lose just a smidgen of air because that air tank is so small, you just compromised your return system, because if you knock it off just a little bit, it's not going to return back the way it's supposed to. So the best thing to do is don't mess with it unless you're having a problem with it. Now you ask, well, how do you get it to 200 psi? Well, when you buy one of these grapples, Rotobec sends a compressor with it, a little 12 volt compressor that will get it to 200 psi. And if you do lose pressure or lose some, or you messed with it and you need to get it back, you're going to have to kind of go above that 200 mark, because again, when you take it off, you might lose a little bit, so you're going to have to go up, you know, 200, 210, and then you'll be good. When you take it off and it blips some of it out, you'll be fine. But again, I've had quite a few problems that I've had to work with people on because of that, and they've monkeyed with it. Bar speed is controlled right here by this little valve right there. There is an Allen set screw in the side of that thing, a little bitty small one. Break it loose, and then you can open and close this right here. So you gotta be mindful, if you're cutting small stuff, you can run the bar faster on it. If you're cutting larger stuff, you can't run the bar quite as fast. You know, if you got a sharp chain on it, it's, you know, you can run it faster. If the chain's starting to fade some, you can't cut quite as fast on it. So you kind of got to figure out a sweet spot. And for me, I cut a lot of big hardwoods, so I want to make it where it will run even when my chain starts to fade, to where it will still pass through the hardwood. Because if you run it too fast, if you open this up too much, the chain's just going to hit and it's going to stall. It'll take you 8 or 10 times testing it to get it right where it needs to be on the speed. And once you set it and get it in that sweet spot, you don't have to set anymore. When I ran bell tree cutters, this knob right here was actually inside the cab on the early model bells. And what I could do was, if I was cutting hardwood, say pine, gum, something soft, I could speed it up. I had a good sharp chain, and as my chain started to fade, I could slow it down a little bit. I could sit there and fine tune that thing through the cutting of the day and keep it where it was maximum efficiency, which on this one here, with it being right there, it's one of those deals, just set it and forget it. And, you know, like I said, it only takes just a few times, because when I got this thing running that day, went right out there in my pile of wood, picked up some hardwood, ran it on that, and got it done. The other thing too is you always need to cut square with it. This is no different than a chainsaw, other than it's being hydraulic. So, you know, if you're cutting square, your best cut's always going to be square with the piece of wood. You know, if you're angled or anything like that, it's going to be just like cutting a notch with a chainsaw. It's harder to cut in an angle than it is cutting square. So always make sure you've got the piece chucked up in there and it's good and square and it's level if you can to make your cut, because if you don't, it's going to affect the performance of what it does. And also with a 30-inch bar on there, the bar is going to be moving some as you're grabbing stuff and everything. It's going to have some flex to it. So if you're going to make a full cut, big pass-through type cut, when you grab, hesitate for a split second to let that bar kind of settle, because if the bar is over here or it's moving and it ends up hitting that piece of wood and it's off, say, 1/4 of an inch like that, it's going to make that pass-through cut, it's going to make it struggle as it's going through there. So that thing needs to set square as it can be to run through the piece. That's why Rotobec puts this piece on there to help true up the stick of wood and all as it's sitting in there. This is your bar and chain oil tank. I think it holds probably a little less than a gallon is what it holds. You just fill it up right there. I fill it up occasionally. You run all day long doing hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of cuts on that's in there, so you'll be able to make it through the day. And if you're doing a lot of cutting, that's not going to be a problem. You just got to be logical with it. You know, it's you got a saw on a grapple, so you got metal and everything here and covering these lines. You got to be mindful. You can't just be abusive on it. So if you're one of those type people that, you know, are not too crazy about taking care of things, or real rough on stuff, or you got guys that are really rough on stuff, this may not be the answer for you. You know, you say if you're pulling on trees, you're pulling on logs and stuff, this stuff right here hanging down, you need to make sure that you stay completely square with it. And if you see it start to bite up here and start to pull, you need to stop, because you can bend this stuff if you're not careful. I haven't bent anything on it, but I'm just saying that is a possibility, because I've dealt with that with some people, and I've been like, hey, you can't just rawhide it. But people are people, and that's the way they are. In the hands of the right operator, the right person, especially in storm work, this thing is just unstoppable. I mean, you can do so much with it. I do not recommend cutting down with this thing unless you've got a lot of experience running a grapple saw. It's a little bit different with it being a fixed position head. Can you cut down with it? Technically, yes, you can. If you've got the experience and you know what you're doing, you can. I do it a lot. I take down full trees with it a lot of times, and, you know, take them down a lot of times. I won't even crank up a saw, take limbs out of it and what have you, take the top section out of it, come on down with it. But again, that's something that you need to play with. Cutting stuff flat like this and making lots and lots of cuts, you can get in trouble. You got a machine sitting there, you got all this stuff up here, you know, that you can hurt. You got lines, boom, whole 9 yards. You maybe got a structure by a power line, something like that. Err on the side of caution. If you know, think it's not a good idea, hey, it's probably not a good idea to try it. I started running grapple saws back in 1988. That was my first bell tree cutter. Ran a bell tree cutter from 1988 to 1997, cutting thousands upon thousands of trees every year from that whole time. And then my log loader, I had my John Deere 2154 track loader, had a Rotobec 4552, had a dangle grapple on it with a grapple saw on it, larger grapple saw than this one right here on it. And I run that from 2013 to 2022 when I got out of it. So I've got a lot of experience running a saw, and a lot of times the questions that I get on it will be from people that, you know, they get in it and they expect to be able to mimic what I do in the machine. And it takes some time to get to that. And am I calling myself a pro? No, I'm not calling myself a pro on this. I've just got the experience on doing it. And it's going to take some time. You're not going to get out there right off the bat. And the best way to learn is staying flat, cutting small pieces. Start small and work your way up. I get a lot of calls about these. I've helped sell a lot of these things. I'll help hook you up with a dealer if you're interested in one of these. The saw, the one with the saw on it, this is an 025 size grapple, and It has to go on at least an 80 size machine and larger. My grapple that's on my Kubota is an 018 size grapple, and it's a smaller grapple than this one. It has to go on to 80 because it has to have the capacity to carry that head. That head and saw together weighs about 1,500 pounds. And you got to have the oil flow. And the smaller machines, they're only capable of running a grapple and not handling the saw at the same time. So that's the reason why it has to be on a 80 size machine. You couldn't really put this grapple on a 6-ton machine. It wouldn't carry it or whatever. And so it's kind of, you know, this is going to be kind of your sweet spot in size from this and larger to be able to handle that. But I get a lot of calls and on the stuff, and I just want to say this right here. I'm not employed by Rotobec. I will help you, but you got to keep in mind that a lot of times when people are reaching out to me, if it's during the day, I'm working. I'm up in a tree somewhere or something like that. A lot of times I think people watch these videos and they think that's all I do is film a video, and then I'm sitting around not doing anything else the rest of the day, and that's far from the truth. I'm very busy all day during the day, and I just get these calls just out of the blue. And again, I'm not employed by Rotobec. I don't make any money from them as far as, you know, getting a weekly check, monthly check, yearly check, nothing like that or anything. I'm just helping them promote it. I like the product as far as that goes, and I will help because number one, dealers, a lot of times they don't know on these things, and then the customer don't know, and so I get it. They've got questions, you know, because this is a pricey piece coming in about 40 grand. Plus, you got to get it installed. You know, you can install it yourself if you've got a hydraulic background. You really need a hydraulic background. You need a hose shop that's really, really good too. And with my logging career, that has helped quite a lot, because I was able to do the install on this thing in 2 days flat and got it completely done and working. And I've seen some of these dealers where they've charged upwards of $15,000 to install it. When I got done with the hoses and everything, I had about with the wiring and all that stuff, the raw materials that I had to have was probably right pushing, I'm gonna say $3 grand. It was under $3 grand to get it done. But, you know, the hydraulic background is very important. I had a couple people who have called me. They spent the money on it, bought a machine, and they can't get it to work like mine does. And it's something simple like this adjustment being off right here, or they don't have the change speed set right. You do that up there on the valve, on the dump valve up there, setting the change speed. You need a photo tag to check that. Needs to be around 9,500 RPMs. And time they're really aggravated, they call me and they're very frustrated, and they're basically like mad at me, and I don't have anything to do with it. I'm not employed by them or nothing. And so they go off on me, and so far I've kept my cool, and although I've wanted to like bite back, but I've refrained from it. And I work at them like this, and I say, okay, all right, let's stop. Tell me what it's doing. Tell me what you've done. And then let's dissect this and get this thing. Let's fix it up. And they're like, okay. And everything's fine and good. When after I explain to them the way it works, and, you know, usually it comes back to right here or something, or they're not doing it right. Some of the dealers, the installs on them are nuts. Some of the installs on one to activate the saw, they're actually putting a foot pedal down there in the floorboard to make the saw work. And you really need a machine with enough buttons on it that are not being used to where you can activate the saw dump valve up there to make it work, because it's better if it works off the joysticks up there and what have you. But you know, the thing, different strokes for different folks. It works like insanely well for me. This is my bread and butter right here, the grapples, because I do roll through these jobs so fast. That's the trick to it, and is getting through them. And they make a lot of money for me, so it's a perfect situation for me, win-win. The storm work where Rook and I were over in South Carolina last year, we just walked the dog over there. I mean, we were doing some days up to 6 jobs a day, you know, just blowing through them. And that's cleaning the yard up too. I mean, that's cleaning the yard up and getting the debris stacked at the road and all that stuff like that. So you can see all the sawdust. And what happens is, as you're running it and it's putting the barn chain oil out, that stuff's kind of slinging and it slings back, which is fine, don't hurt anything, but that sawdust will stick to it. And the chain oiler system works off this pivot right here where it pivots around. It's got like a cam lobe on it. And as this is going around, it's pushing a piston in. And as that piston goes in, it kind of feeds that barn chain oil out on the chain right there, so it keeps oiling. I love it. I love not having to get out, cut something up, handle it, work through trees so fast. I hope this video helps out a lot of people and some of the questions and just everything that goes along with it. The price tag on it, 40 grand, you got the install fees on it. You can get your money back very, very quick on this unit if you've got the right person sitting in that seat up there. That's what it's all gonna boil back to. It was a perfect scenario for me to get this in my hands with going back to the experience that I've got, and was able to just take off and run with it. Obviously, oftentimes that's not going to be the case with certain companies. They may have a guy there that's really, really good at running equipment and everything, and the excavator just puts in a whole different perspective of what you can do, and the way that you got to run is so different than a like a stand-on mini skid or an Avant or a Giant or anything like that. Very, very different. It's going to be kind of the equivalent of like running a mech or something. If you make this step and you make this investment, you've got to have somebody that has pretty heavy interest in what they're doing, and they've got good capabilities, because if you don't have the right person in the seat of it, you're not going to get the full potential out of it that you would need to get out of it. And honestly, the way that I do things, primarily by myself, Kevin helps me on the weekends and all, and it's because of the equipment that I have. The equipment costs a lot of money, but that investment pays off so much in the long run. And a lot of times it's kind of scary looking at that, but if you've got the right ingredients, the right equipment is where it's at, and having the right couple of people, and man, the sky's the limit then at that point. So anywho, hope y'all enjoyed this and stay tuned on it. And if you have any questions, you can ask them down below. I'll kind of try to keep up with the comments, and we'll catch y'all later. Later, taters.